right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of the Man They Remember podcast. How's everyone doing today?
Doing good.
Hello.
Great.
Excellent.
This is an exciting moment for us. The first time we have a full table.
Yeah. Full table.
Yeah, all the spots are filled. So big day.
Cozy.
Yeah.
It's cozy in here.
Well, let's start by introducing the voices you're hearing on the podcast. We'll start all the way at the right. I should mix it up sometime and just go random.
Oh yeah, throw us off.
I agree.
But on my right, your left, we've got Paul Cool Voice Reyes.
Hello. Good to see or talk to everyone
Be heard.
today.
Be heard.
Good to be heard.
And then we've got the brothers Reyes
That's right.
today. So we've got Ron joining us, and we're talking about we don't have nicknames yet, so we got to figure out nicknames. But Ron, welcome back to the show.
It's nice to be back. My voice isn't as cool.
And then sitting right to my left, right here in the middle of the table, we've got back with us Shad Thomas, Shadfish.
Shadfish.
There we go.
Now it's started.
Is that locked in?
It's set on the podcast now, so it's stuck.
Okay.
And so it was.
It shall be. And then to my left, to your right, Russ Manning. He was with us last time. Back with us again.
Thanks for letting me back. I made so many snafus last time. I thought I was done with this, but they invited me back again.
And then the guy pushing all the buttons, controlling who you see, is Rye Guy Manning. How you doing, Rylan?
I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So this is episode 5. We're getting up almost to that crucial episode 6 that everyone talks about. If you've done any research about podcasts,
is
6 is a big
is that
deal.
a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the thing?
Well, typically, they'll say you should have your first 6 episodes recorded and release them all at one time. We didn't do that.
Interesting.
Nope.
Yeah, that's
No.
overrated.
Did our first 4 live. So.
Yeah.
I know. That's right.
Just went for it.
Yep. But so we're pre-recording them now, and then editing them and releasing the video on Sunday, and then audio goes live midnight, I guess technically Monday morning. So. But yeah, so we're a brand new podcast. One of the best things you can do to help out a podcast like ours is rate it, review it on iTunes or whatever podcast app you use. Go out there and give it a 5-star rating. I don't care if you think it's a 1-star rating. Just go give it a 5-star rating.
Get that 5.
Always talk about honesty today, though.
Yeah. No, that's later.
Yes.
So when we're talking about honesty, we'll let you give whatever review you want. But
Until then, 5 stars.
until then,
Yes.
yeah. So and then actually a written review is a really good thing. But then let's be serious. This is a podcast for men. So the best way for any other guy to hear about this podcast is if you tell them. So end conversation. Hey, I heard this awesome podcast with this guy that has a really cool voice and a bunch of other guys. So
I heard of that guy.
so you should check it out. And they're talking about what it means to be a man. So. Yeah, we'd love anything you're willing to share. ManTheyRemember.com, Facebook.com/ManTheyRemember. And we're getting a group going there. There's only like 4 guys in the group. Are you in the group yet, Shad?
Yes.
I think you are.
I think I am. Yes.
Yeah. Ron, you in the group yet?
The group?
Rylan?
I think I
group?
joined.
Facebook group?
It's Facebook.
What?
What's Facebook?
I know.
No,
Who's face?
I don't know. I don't do a lot of Facebook. I do it for church service. When I'm not able to get there, but for the most part, I'm not really on. I'll have to.
Yeah, I'm not
I'll have
on
to
a
look
bunch either.
All right.
But I joined.
Get that.
Well, we're going to get some new members
I will
then.
join.
That's right.
I will join.
More to
So today we're going to jump right into the topic, mix things up a little bit, and we've got closing ceremonies coming up for you at the end with some things that we love, giving the guys some time to think about it because I just sprung it on them. Sorry, I'm just really loud now all of a sudden. All right, so we are talking about hope, being hopeful people, being men of hope, and so that's kind of the theme that we're talking about. But I'm going to try. Do you guys know Morse code? Anybody know Morse code?
I've heard it before, but
the
never
old Navy
sent any
movies.
messages myself.
Is that for blind people?
No, that's Braille.
Is that
that's
Braille?
Braille. Yeah.
SOS.
Feels like the same thing.
SOS, I think
Yeah. I've always wanted to learn it, but
Yeah, I've always wanted to learn it too. I went on to getting ready for this. I went on YouTube, and there's actually some good tutorials on there on how to learn it. I just realized I got to make sure these are turned up so you can hear them.
the problem with learning it is who do you use it with?
I know.
Well, if you're a hammer, if you're a ham radio operator,
Can click it.
yeah, then you can get on
Mm-hmm.
ham and you can commute. You have to learn Morse code to get your ham license. So
Really?
yeah,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
yeah,
A ham license?
ham radio.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And if all communications break
Now we-
down,
now we know.
and it's Armageddon, it's a good thing to know too, or aliens take over too.
Yeah,
And
the
that-
aliens,
that's
Yeah.
critical
Yeah.
right there.
I saw it in a movie.
So okay, so here let's start with. Let's see. I'll start with this one. Now I'm going to start with this one. Here we go. All right.
Is that SOS?
No.
So that's what I'm gonna guess every
That
time.
should be the same sound.
Man.
SOS is everyone. You
Dot,
should
dot,
know.
dash.
Do you guys know? Anyone know SOS?
Dot dash.
Clearly not, because I just guessed that was SOS.
Oh, this is, my dad did teach me that growing up.
Really?
It's dit 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 dot 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 dit dit dit. Right. So.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Right? So if
Interesting.
you're sinking, then you know what.
Yeah.
I guess you say Mayday over the radio, or you just start.
Yeah.
But that's what you're supposed to flash with light, and like that kind of thing. If you're in danger, and so.
Okay.
So here, I just learned this today. So you've got the dits, which are the dots that they call them. The short ones. Those are the short ones, and then a dot. Dits and dots, shorts and longs. The dot is supposed to be the 3 times the length of a dit, right? So you've got the dit, and then you've got the dot, which is supposed. So if you do right, so one long one is supposed to take up the same amount of space as 3 short ones. All right, so that's kind of a basic rule that I learned today, which I thought was interesting. So let me play it again. Any guesses?
Is it in Spanish?
No.
I don't then.
Portuguese.
No, that was
Yo quiero.
man they remember. So, yeah. All right, so
Grown.
That was
That was
my
my
next
next
guess.
yeah. Here we go. This one's the longest one. We'll go with that one.
Wow.
We're gonna just play this for a whole hour.
Wait for it.
This is the podcast today.
Hold on, this was the punchline.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
that was a
this guy
joke,
won't
wasn't
shut
it?
Is it like a really offbeat click track, or
No. It's subscribe to the Man They Remember podcast.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I guess we need to know what the dits and dots
Right,
actually
right, yeah,
stand
exactly.
for.
Yeah.
We know now what a dit and a dot is, but
So-
we don't know
I know
what it means.
So how they decided, they decided which would have the dits and the dots and all that was they actually studied the alphabet and saw which letters were the most used. Right? So which letter do you think is the most used letter in the English language?
E or R?
I probably.
E.
R.
Who said E?
S.
E.
Someone
E.
else.
E.
R.
Yeah, so E is just
So it's
is
R.
dit. One, it's just that quick. That's E, right? So, and then I think the second most used letter is
A.
S.
Is it R?
not R. No,
It's a vowel, probably, right?
for us?
no.
it is.
No?
I'm pretty sure if I remember right, it's T. And I think that's a dot, a long one, So then there's kind of like this binary tree that comes down from all of them, and you can figure it. So there's a chart you can go look and figure out how to put the dots together. But can you imagine listening to a message like that and being able to just hear it?
Yeah,
and
that's
just
crazy.
say like listen like a different language. But that's what guys who are really good at Morse code do. They hear it and they don't have to. They just know what is being communicated.
No.
So here's one more. So this one I have, it's four dits, and then it's 3 dots, and then it's a dit, dot, dot, dit, and then a dit. So it's dit, 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 dot, 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 dit, dot, dot, dit, dit. So here's what we're going to learn one word today, all right? So this is hope. This was hope. All right, so 4 dits is H, and you learn that there's mnemonic devices for learning all these that help you learn the length of them. So it's hippity hop, right?
For H.
Right. So that's H. H is hippity hop,
And
then O is OMG. OMG, like, oh my gosh, right? So you're supposed to say these phrases in the way, that helps you learn the rhythm, right? So hippity hop, oh my gosh. And then P is, so dit dot dot dit. Now this one's a little boyish humor here. See if I can remember. See, something that I can't even read my writing.
Cricket.
I know. Where's this?
That's supposed to be silence.
Where's the squirrel sound?
I can't remember. It's something like, but it's something like poopy smell or something like that.
Poopy smell.
So we're not going to learn that one. And then E, E is just the dit, right? So it's like question, E, All right. So
Okay.
that's hope.
Oh.
All right. And then here's the last one. And it's the question, is there hope? So here's our story to get us started on the topic. Years ago, an S-4 submarine was rammed by a ship off the coast of Massachusetts. It sank immediately. The entire crew was trapped in a prison house of death. Every effort was made to rescue the crew, but all ultimately failed. Near the end of the ordeal, a deep-sea diver who was doing everything in his power to find a way for the crew's release thought he heard a tapping on the steel wall of the sunken sub. He placed his helmet up against the side of the vessel, and he realized it was Morse code. He attached himself to the side, and he spelled out in his mind the message being tapped from within. It was repeating the same question, and the question was, from within, is there any hope? Is there any hope? And that's what... So that's what they were tapping out from inside the submarine, trapped inside the submarine.
How's the story end?
Yeah.
It's not a happy ending.
There was no hope.
No. There was no hope. There was no hope. They couldn't get him out. So
No.
Sorry for your luck.
That was a guess.
So we're talking about being hopeful, and that's a kind of a hard story to start off on, but a true story. But in the midst of difficult circumstances, is there any hope? Like when you're facing the most detrimental, devastating circumstance of your life, when it looks like all hope is lost, how do we be hopeful people? How can we be men of hope? We got an abundance of negativity and pessimism in our world today. How do we be men of hope in the midst of dire circumstances?
Good question.
Do it. Now's the time.
Yeah.
There it was.
Yeah.
In case I got my sound effects back, so
Yeah.
you're gonna be hearing some of those.
Yeah, that's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think one of the comments that we were talking about ahead of time was just thinking about there is, it's, you hear so much hopelessness in terms of people being negative and with the economy or the pandemic or all the things that go on. It becomes difficult to be a hopeful person at times because it just feels like it's a pervasive thing. No matter where you go, it feels very hopeless.
Well, maybe what we need to do, I need to contrast the negative downer story with a more hopeful story.
One.
So let's try that.
Really, really sad.
Yeah,
right
really,
now.
really.
So can we
Somber mode.
Cheer it up a little
bring
bit.
this up?
All right, so Thomas Edison, I don't know if you knew this, but most people credit Thomas Edison's ability to creative genius, but he credited it to hard work. Genius, he declared, is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. Edison was an optimist who saw the best in everything. If we did all the things we were capable of doing, he once said, we would literally astound ourselves. When it took him 10,000 tries to find the right materials for the incandescent light bulb, he didn't see them as that many failures. With each attempt, he gained information about what didn't work, bringing him closer to a solution. He never doubted that he would find a good one. His belief could be summarized by his statement, "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up."
I've heard that.
Probably the most notable display of Edison's positive attitude can be seen in the way he approached a tragedy that occurred when he was in his late 60s. The lab he had built in West Orange, New Jersey, was world famous. He called the 14-building complex his invention factory. Its main building was a massive, greater than 3 football fields in size. From that base of operations, he and his staff conceived of invention, developed prototypes, manufactured products, and shipped them to the customers. It became a model for modern research and manufacturing. Edison loved the place. He spent every minute he could there. He even slept there, often on one of the lab tables. But on a December day in 1914, his beloved lab caught fire. And as he stood outside and watched it burn, he's reported to have said, "Kids, go get your mother. She'll never see another fire like this one." Most people would have been crushed, but not Edison. "I'm 67, he stated after the tragedy, "but not too old to make a fresh start. I've been through a lot of things like this." He rebuilt the lab, and he kept working for another 17 years. "I'm long on ideas, but short on time," he commented. "I expect to live to be only about 100. And he died at the age of 84.
Wow.
Did he have a good insurance policy?
I think that was probably before insurance.
Yeah, I don't think Geico existed back then. Maybe. I don't know.
Surprised everything didn't burn down back then. I mean, they had
whole cities just
full-
torch.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, just
Yeah, San
these
Francisco,
lanterns.
yeah.
I mean, it's, so he was probably like, well, it was due.
Right.
Yeah. Go get your mom.
Bound to happen eventually.
I'm surprised it hadn't happened already.
Yeah. All the good stuff.
That's why I'm inventing the light bulb.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, there you go.
That's right.
Yes. So houses stop burning down when they're trying to read at nighttime, right? Yeah, because there was the Chicago fire.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a San Francisco fire or
Seems
something like that
it
too?
was,
Like
but I might be.
big, massive fires that burned thousands and thousands and thousands of homes and businesses.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore, does it?
No.
Not to that extent.
No.
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 Yeah.
Only when we have wildfires, it seems like we had a few smaller towns burned to the ground last fall and summer with the wildfires that we
Right.
had.
And almost instantly, it seems like
Yeah,
a fire
you
comes
almost
through.
lost your house. Actually, you were
We didn't
like,
almost lose our house, but
Felt
we
like
were
it.
in the path of a
Yeah,
fire.
you were a little hopeless.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
yeah.
Definitely nervous about it. So,
Getting sprinklers from everywhere. And
yep.
Yeah.
Driving around. I remember I went to Fred Meyer and the greenhouse section or whatever they call that was locked up.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the manager and I said, I need some sprinklers. And he said, "Well, I'm sorry, it's locked up and I don't have the code." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to need you to get the code.
Yeah.
I need to put some sprinklers around my house because I just got alerted that we're at a level 2 evacuation for forest fires, and I need to turn some sprinklers on around my house." And I said, "Well, you don't understand. I don't have the code. It's not here anywhere. I'd have to call my manager and wake them up." And I said, "Well, then you need to call your manager and wake them up because I need some sprinklers so that I can start wetting down the grass and area around my house." And I waited about 10 minutes, and he got the code, and I got the sprinklers, and
There you
everything was
go.
fine. So,
Nice.
yeah. So
Good story
that's perseverance. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there are, I guess, two examples of tragedy and hope in the face of tragedy, and Edison had a different one, had maybe a different approach than a lot of people would today. We might, if our building burned down that we're in right now and we're standing around watching it, would we look at it and say, "There goes everything," or would we say, "Hey, go get some marshmallows and some chocolate. It's time to roast some s'mores," right?
my mom would cheer. So
Right.
just throw that out there.
Yeah.
She'd be like, "Yes,
Finally.
new start."
We all knew.
Yeah.
Well, I can relate with what Edison was talking about because it's through my life. It's been I've burned it down myself. Through plenty of my own mistakes, but I continue to see that even though that's those tragedies of most of my own doing, sometimes not, but I know that I always come out stronger in the end. And so it you know, when something happens, it's a lot less impactful to me. And you know, my faith in God is a big testament to that too, because I know that that's how I believe, and so I know I come through, and then He's able to use me for you know, to learn from that and to grow, and then to share it with others too. So
so you're saying that because you've gone through things and come through them and you've grown through them, now when you're facing adversity, you're able to look at it a little bit differently.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's and that's what you read there. And Thomas Edison he's like, I've been through these things before, so it's, you know, I know that I can rebuild, you know. So
yeah, do you guys have a hard time being hopeful when you're facing something hard and difficult, or maybe facing a long shift and it started off poorly and it's not going well, and then and you've still got 10 hours left, or you know, a long season in front of you for one thing or another? You know, that's how I can get that way at certain seasons of the year. It's like, oh, this is going to be a long way. I felt that way through the pandemic. You know, it's like, is this, you know, are we ever going to get to a point where I can have a day off? You know, so.
Yeah, it's hard, you know, kind of naturally you just go to that pessimism, you know, how do you hold on to hope when it looks like there's no hope, you know, no hope of that, you know, being fulfilled in the future, of like, okay, this is gonna get better. You know, Ron Dog, nickname.
Yes.
You know,
he just answered. Of course, that's my name. Ron.
Yeah, of course, right. You know, we're both nurses in the hospital, and we would go to work for the last year, and for the longest time it was just COVID all over the place, and
right.
You know, a lot of morale was really low, and it was hard, and it was hard to be like, you know what, I know this is really bad. A lot of days are really rough, and you know, anxiety and fear, and you know, trying to get through that, but you know, sometimes willing yourself, almost shoehorning yourself into that, I'm going to be hopeful, I'm going to be optimistic, and you know, this is going to get better. And it's hard because it can be naturally, you know, you want to go the other way.
Right. Yeah. Tell us more about that.
Well, I think that what is kind of key with, you know, like being a nurse or a doctor or anyone in the healthcare field is you know, with any hardship that you go through, and this applies to anybody, I would think, but any hardship you go through is actually a way of tempering you, you know, so that you can foster your own hope, because you know, as we go through, you know, these pandemics or these episodes that are, you know, we had like the swine flu and you know, I mean, all these different types of
this isn't your first
get.
Epidemic or pandemic. You've been through this before in some level, right? Yeah,
maybe to a degree. It's like, you know, every flu season is kind of rough, but this was definitely something new. And I think at the beginning it was kind of hopeless. We were having a lot of, you know, mortality with our COVID patients.
Right.
For a while there, we were like 100%. Nobody was surviving it.
Wow.
In the ICU. And, you know, as time went on, we learned more what was best for the patients, or the best for this type of infection. And now it's pretty rare to have anybody die from it.
Wow.
So it just kind of depends on how, you know, sick they are coming in and whatnot. But I think that with any type of hardship, it does season you, you know, and that kind of experience makes you a little bit more optimistic.
Right. There's a verse in the Bible that is one of my favorites. It's found in James chapter 1. It says, "Consider it joy when you encounter trials of many kinds, knowing that test your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its perfect result, that you might be complete, lacking in nothing." And I was going through a particularly really rough time in my life a bunch of years ago, and a friend of mine paraphrased that has always stuck with me, almost like it reminded me when Ron was talking, because it was like, you know, he said life's going to be full of struggles. Learn to enjoy the struggles. You know, because we hit these mountaintops and we expect that, okay, that's, we just wait for the mountaintops.
Right.
We wait for the good times. But life is a lot of the valleys. Life is a lot of the struggles, a lot of the really struggles. And he said, if we learn like within the struggles to find the rays of hope or find the light or find the things that will help us get through, or, you know, the hope that we have, you know, whatever that is, you know, that you cling to, that it, you know, and that you actually learn to live with joy through the circumstances and not let the circumstances affect you, you know, and let that just take you down. Obviously we're human beings. They're gonna hit us for a while, but how long do they keep us down? Are we able to, kind of like a boxer, are we able to get back up and continue the fight, or we just stay down and just you know, wallow in our problems? So that was the way he paraphrased that particular verse has, you know, this was probably 30 years ago I went through that, but it was like, it was something that really stuck with me, that it learned to enjoy the struggles, because life is going to be a struggle. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, we often want to have mountaintop experiences. And, you know, like when you're not on the mountaintop, you're longing about being, you know, on the mountain. You know, I want to be up on
a sunny day.
Yeah,
you don't want to be up there when it's cloudy or raining.
But you know, I've often said life happens in the valley. You know, you want to be on the mountaintop, but life really happens in the valley. And there's no life on the mountaintop. I don't know if you've ever been to the top of any of the mountains around here, but there's no life up there. It's desolate. You don't want to live up there. You know, like it's fun to experience, but you go visit and you want to get back to where there's water, where there's food, where there's shelter. Like, you don't have those things up on the mountaintop. They're just experiences, and they're good, but life really does happen in the valley. We have to be ready for life in the valley. So,
but like my dad was saying, though, for hope and hopelessness are both very contagious, right? So if you're around a lot of hopeless people, it's very contagious. But at the same time, I think it honestly, to some extent, is a choice, right? When you wake up in the morning, you're like, okay, I get that there's no hope here, but you know what? Like, I'm gonna choose to be that positive, more hopeful person when I'm at work, when I'm around people that are hopeless, because otherwise you're just going to be drained with them versus being able to add that contagiousness of hope and try to get that going. And obviously it's hard. Obviously it's not the easiest thing in the world, but just choosing to be positive in circumstances that aren't great is
it's huge. Yeah. Just making that choice. It's like you go, it's like, all right, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be hopeful. It makes a difference if you really kind of almost psych yourself up.
Yep. Right. And it's a choice, right? It's a choice you have to make. I've got a quote here by Martin Lloyd Jones. He says, most unhappiness in life is due to the fact that you are listening to yourself instead of talking to yourself.
Interesting.
And I think it's easy for us to just, you know, to kind of let our minds wander and roam. And oftentimes, if that happens, you can go down a rabbit trail and you find yourself in a really negative point of view, mindset. But if you're talking to yourself, when you're going through this, you know, when you guys were going through the pandemic last year, you know, I imagine you were talking to yourself intentionally. We're going to get through this. This, you know.
That's exactly what I said.
Every day.
That's right.
Remember?
I remember I was there.
But
didn't we do the high five?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you know, talking about like kind of being in a hopeless situation, like I remember being a new nurse, since we're on that topic in some way that we can relate to. But I remember like working with really difficult people, like people that really put you down, really just kind of like you know, you're not cut to be a nurse, or you're not cut to work with intensive care or whatever it is. And I used to get really frustrated and be like, you know, God, why are you take this person away? Take this, you know, take this away. And I remember when I changed my perspective to like, okay, well, what do you want me to learn from this experience, from this person? And I think that gave me more hope, you know, as you're thinking about, you know, I know I'm going to be working with this person, instead of being like, man, I got to stay away from him. It's like, what can I learn from this? And I think that helps to have that kind of mindset to turn it around.
Yeah, that's good.
Easy.
Well, no, but that's good. I want to land there for a second. So you're taking a difficult experience. By the way, there's some foil rattling around in the background.
That's
so,
what that is.
It's the air coming through the windows pushing it. Yeah.
So that we got to redo that middle window a little bit. So you're taking a difficult situation, and instead of looking at it, from one perspective of, oh, poor me, I have to deal with this awful person all day long. You're saying, what can I learn from this situation?
Right. Not what can I do to stay away from this person? You just kind of take it out of your hands by just saying, okay, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and this person's going to do what they're going to do, and if there's something I can learn from it.
Yeah, so you're looking for an opportunity then in the difficulty.
Right.
That's a good quote. I need to write that down. Looking for an opportunity in difficulty.
Yeah.
Trademark.
And it's in the podcast. So.
No pens.
Yeah, no pens.
I think it's also important to say that when they're going through that they weren't doing it alone either. Encouraging and being around other people that encourage. It's crucial in my life that I surround myself with those positive people. I'm in a meeting every morning and we discuss these situations on how we, or not situations, but how do we do life and how do we do it to become better people every day. And and it can be like, even like Ryland said, it's who you're around, and if you're around negative people, you can combat that with positive people, whether it be a spouse or a community of men like we're sitting here today, is to be encouragers. And hope is not done alone in my life.
Right.
It's never done alone. So
there's some science behind that. You guys want to go down the science money trail?
let's do it.
Yes,
Give
please.
us the hippity hop.
Yeah, here we go.
There we go.
Squirrel.
So we have mirror neurons, right, in our brain. Everyone know what mirror neurons are?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably.
I will when you tell me, and I'll believe you too.
Well, so basically, our brains have mirror neurons in them, and what they do is that when you're around someone else, these neurons in your brain start replicating what you see and hear and experience in other people. So literally, just by the six of us being around this table for more than 15 or 20 minutes, our mirror neurons are starting to make our brains think more alike and look actually the brain waves. If we went into an MRI, I think, no, an fMRI, where they can scan your brain waves, right? Then our brain waves will actually start to sync up and look similar, so like where I have a peak, you'll have a peak, and where I have a valley, you'll have a valley, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And so
Interesting.
The same thing happens with hope. Same thing happens with negativity. Yeah. So
association.
I have some friends that were telling me they interview a lot of people like on a pretty daily basis, and they were telling me like they do things when they're interviewing people to kind of like tell the other person what to do. Basically, so like they'll put like their hands in certain positions, and the interviewee will match them, and they'll also start like the match the energies. Like the interviewer will actually start to like kind of do things with their body to make it so the interviewee is more engaged with the interview. There is a lot to be said about that.
Wow.
So.
Interesting.
Well, just body language is a great example because you're subconsciously looking at that. So like, if you're sitting around a table of guys and one guy within almost 30 or 40 seconds, you'll see other guys doing the same thing.
It's the same thing with like the legs folded over. Like if you're like have your leg folded over your knee, and you look around, you'll see about 3 or 4 other guys with their leg folded around their knee.
So now we're like, so whose body language is going to be the most dominant?
I'm stuck in my body language because I'm
I can't move. No, I think my unfortunate mirroring quality is accents.
Accents?
I do that as well.
People are talking Southern, and I'm like, I know what you mean.
Yeah, if I lived in the South, I'd be.
That's right. We're all going to give you shit.
We work at a
let's get going.
We work at a Japanese company, and my dad starts to kind of mirror like the Japanese accent.
Our Japanese accents. Ron, you and I, we sync, man. The brainwaves going here.
Ryland's over there going, no, Dad, no.
Trouble.
My wife is stop with the Japanese accent.
They don't take any offense by it because it's just the way they talk in English, and so they kind of match it to kind of make it easier for them to understand. But it's always funny to hear.
Yeah.
You just have to speak up.
Right.
They can't hear.
Yeah.
That's true.
So you have to talk really loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we become like who we spend time
Yeah,
with.
absolutely.
And
Association.
so if we're spending a lot of time around negative people, our brains literally start to look like the brains of those negative people. So it's a really a really important thing. So how do we become more hopeful? How do we be, actually, practically speaking, how do we become more hopeful, optimistic people?
I have a tragic story that actually, because I think sometimes we can look back in history and see, tragedy and then see hope out of the tragedy, right? See some lessons learned. I was telling you a little earlier, about 30 years ago, my youngest brother, my only brother, was killed by a drunk driver. Leaving our home to drive back to my parents' home where he was living. He was gentleman got out of the wrong lane or got into the wrong lane and head on accident with my brother and was killed almost instantly. And he did make it to the hospital. Anyway, just that whole having seen him, alive, not 5 minutes before, and then then I remember sitting in the hospital, and it just never having faced death before. It's just that, waiting, thinking, he's going to come out of surgery, because he did make it to surgery. I forgot about that. And when the surgeon came out with, kind of tears in his eyes, he said, I did everything I could, and he just couldn't save him, And I remember that feeling of hopelessness, that feeling of, what in the world, and that sense of not having, how do you deal with this, and, like I said, having a faith, as Chad mentioned, that was a huge hope in the fact of just knowing and understanding heaven and understanding some of that was a huge hope. But then also, so that was the biggest hope for me. But then also the fact that as you see some of the things that happen, my parents, who were very negative at the time, were actually able to forgive the gentleman that hit my brother, and that created a closer marriage with my parents. And my parents make some changes in their life to get closer to their relationship with God. And then just some other things that happen. You kind of start to put the things together. I would never choose that, but to see, if you can look back and say, okay, I see some hope and some things that went on within those circumstances that were good, that came out of tragedy. To me, it puts a different spin on what would feel like a hopeless situation.
Yeah, that's good.
I think looking at history as well, like you said, you look back on that, but not just our history, but history in general, to see that even with the pandemic, you can see that America back in, when did it hit?
1918.
1918, that they got through that as well. And I think a lot of us took a look at that and said, okay, they made it through. It wasn't the end of the world. And that's another example of taking a look at history and what came of that. And so
humans are still alive.
Yeah, we persevered.
Yeah.
Not all of us, but
what would you say is there any difference between optimism versus hope?
Good question.
Because I've always thought of like biblical hope is like waiting for, we're waiting for God to fulfill his promise. Optimism is like, I hope God gives us good things.
Right.
What I want.
Candy?
Yeah, well, I'd call that wishful thinking. Okay. God giving me what I want, I would say is wishful thinking.
Right. Dear Lord. Yeah.
Good luck with that.
I mean, we definitely deal with a lot of, hope. A lot of times where we'll deal with patients that really are in a hopeless or statistically poor prognosis, but you have family that just carries on, and it seems to be a little bit different, like that kind of hope versus optimism.
Yeah. So the way a lot of the way we use the word hope is more of a wishful thinking. It's I wish, it's like, I'm hoping, I hope on my way home from work today that I don't have bad traffic, that I have to sit in the car, whatever, that's kind of our typical way of using the word. But I think biblical hope, or, is more probably along the lines of optimism, of shaping how we see the world right now, through both future events and past events, right? And so we're kind of getting into Bible talk, and and I'm assuming we're going to have guys listening that aren't Christians. So, but the principle I think still applies is that how you're looking towards the future, and also how you look through the past will affect your present, right? So if your storyline that you've lived up until now is a victimhood storyline, like we talked about last week, then you're looking forward towards the future of just like, this is how it always goes for me. I'm always, life is always a disaster. Then you're going to look at this situation, whatever it is, through that lens. Yep. But if you can look at it through a different lens, and what both Russ and you were talking about is biblical hope. You're looking through a lens of resurrection, of and everything made right, everything made new, and you can look at it and say, oh well, I know we're going to end up there, so I can look at the present now through that same lens, right? So it really reshapes how you see things. So
yeah, I agree.
So I think optimism then is looking at, instead of saying what's the worst possible scenario, it's looking at past, present, and future, and what's the best possible scenario that could come out of this situation as a result. So how else can we become more hopeful?
What you said, I think that input, and I think Paul mentioned that input is huge, right? I think if our input is negative, and we're I don't want to put down the media, but I'll put down the media.
I'll put them down with you. I'll go harder.
I'm very negative on the media these days. It doesn't feel like we report the news. We report anything that we can find that's negative. And so if our diet is a lot of media intake, it's very, like I said, the neurons, it'd be very, very difficult to have a positive look on life, versus something else, maybe a good read, positive books, positive, friendships, associations, positive people in your life, finding those, and not saying don't hang out with the negative people, but don't hang out with the negative people, right? If that person is just always bringing you down, try to, stop inviting them over, just because it really is, how the input that we put in, if we continue to put in negative input, it's very difficult. But if we put in positive, it's going to be a lot better.
Well, if you eat too many potato chips, you eventually start looking like a potato.
That's right.
Right? So the same thing is true with our minds.
Can vouch there.
Yeah. So true.
I think it's a perspective deal too. It's how you perceive things, because I can wake up one day and just say, stub my toe, and then I'm like, oh, this is going to be a terrible day. I started it off stubbing my toe, and it'll snowball. It tends to snowball, but if I change my perspective right away and I just reset, there's a better chance that things are going to, look a little better. Even if they don't, if they're not looking better, you're still changing your perspective. Right. So
to kind of jump on what Shao was just saying, I agree 100%. Like if you're going into your day with a negative attitude, everything's just going to go pretty much downhill from there. Right. Because every situation you're going to find is going to be negative. And I have a quick little story about that. I have a coworker, and he was working on the something called the box cleaner, right? And the morning he woke up, he put on a certain amount of clothing because he's like, I just felt like the box cleaner was going to go down today, and I put on these clothing because it'd become more comfortable for me to work in there. And sure enough, he comes in, the box cleaner goes down. I'm like, bro, you just talked yourself into having to work on this all day because you had the mindset in the morning. Right. I know that's not fully how that works, but it seems like it does, right? It seems like when you wake up saying this is going to happen. Yeah. Sometimes it can tend to happen like that.
Yeah, I could go down a rabbit trail there, but I won't.
I loved a story that I heard a young lady tell that I was talking about. I was listening to, she had told us a customer came in, it was just very negative, bad day was starting bad, too many errands and gloomy day, and she was kind of spewing this to the young lady that was behind the counter, I think at a fast food restaurant. And the girl was just feeling very positive, faring up, well, at least, you have the other half of the day, day. You know, at least you have, your car's running to run those errands. She just gave all these positives to these ladies' negatives,
right.
and the lady just kind of stood there and turned around and walked away.
Right.
I want to stay stuck in my negative energy.
Yeah, I don't need this kind of positivity.
That's right. Who do you think you
wonder
are with
why.
this positive attitude?
And you wonder why your day is going that way. You know.
Well, any final thoughts here as we start to wrap up our first discussion on hope? Nope.
Nope.
Lots of hope.
Yeah. So to kind of summarize, we've heard the ideas already. Feed yourself the right food. Russ was talking about that. If you're taking in negativity all the time, it's going to be hard to be positive. So make sure you're taking in, positive thinking. Surrounding yourself with hopeful people. That's an important thing to do. Making sure you have people that are going to help support that goal in your life. Another thing, practical tip: write something hopeful on the wall. Just like
affirmations is a big one.
Yeah, and just read it out loud, and start. And then achieve a goal every day. If you're really struggling, I call it the begetting principle. Like begets like. So if you're really struggling to get any kind of forward progress, just start with the smallest thing that you can accomplish, and it'll start to produce the fruit of more accomplishment. So if you haven't done anything but sit on the couch for weeks and weeks, get up and take 10 steps, and mark that as a goal that you accomplished it, and then the next time you'll be wanting to take 20. So
you're making a win for today. For the day, right? You're accomplishing a win for that day. You're like, okay, it was a bad day, but I had a win today.
Right.
And you reminded me of something, David, when you said that on writing down. It's I often do a gratitude list.
Yeah, gratitude is huge.
Gratitude is huge, and it's a really, really good way to get out of the poor me's.
Right, it's good. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one last thing here. This is from Jim Tressel, and I don't know what you think about him, but I think he's great, so we'll leave it at that. There are times when life departs from our familiar script and throws us something we had no idea was coming. It's tempting in those circumstances to lose faith in ourselves and the people around us and even in God. But if we've been planting the seeds of hope in our hearts, we'll be able to overcome the problems of life and use them not only to make ourselves stronger, but also to produce something good for ourselves and those we love. And that idea, seeds of hope, not in the same situation as you guys, but I've had, I don't know if you'd call it the privilege, but kind of a privilege of walking with people through some difficult circumstances. And there's more than two kinds of people. I hate it when people say there's two kinds of people. There's always more than two kinds of people, but there are two kinds of people when it comes to getting through a difficult circumstance. And really it kind of comes down to this idea. If you've lived a life where you've been planting seeds of hope up until that point, then there's a good chance you'll have hope getting through the difficult circumstance. Mm-hmm. But if you've lived a pessimistic, negative life up until the difficult circumstance, and that's when you decide to try to start planting seeds of hope, then you're probably not going to have as good of a shot at getting through it with a positive mindset or with success. Because, it's like anything. I was planting some fruit trees this last weekend, and they're 4 feet tall, 5 feet tall. It's going to be years before we get any fruit or nuts off of them. They have the saying about trees, when's the best time to plant a tree? 40 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today, right? So, right. But it's going to take some time for something to grow up and produce fruit. The same thing with hope. If you're not planting seeds of hope all along, all the time, when you need it, you won't have any fruit growing, right? That's
true.
And so you got to have those seeds of hope going all along. Any final thoughts on hope? I've been talking too much today.
You looking at your audio waves?
Yes, I can see.
Well, I'm just hoping that next week you won't talk as much.
Yeah,
we're really hoping the Seahawks do.
You said you're wide open, so I took a shot.
Nobody?
That was good. No.
That was really good.
Yeah. Good talk.
And by the way, I have a lot of room to grow on this one. I'm constantly working on it. I've always been a more pessimistic, negative bent kind of a person, so it's been just a struggle for me for most of my life. So this is one I have to be very intentional about, and it's easy for me to slip back into lots of old negative thought patterns. So if you're listening or watching and you say, oh, I could never be an optimistic, positive person. I've said that my whole life. So, and someone actually called me hopeful not that long ago. So I kind of wear that one. It's like my favorite compliment I've ever gotten. He's just so hopeful. Someone said, it's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No,
Finally.
Somebody said they loved my humility the other day, and I almost cried. I was like, yes, thank you.
All right. Well, to wrap us up, we're going to do something a little bit different. We'll do our awards ceremony, closing ceremonies. So give the guys an opportunity to kind of share anything they want to just give a shout out to that, like this thing really helped my life this last week. This person really changed my, anything like that. It can be serious. It can be not serious at all. So any favorite tools?
Well, actually, for my wife's birthday, I made her some shelves.
Nice.
And I always have such a hard time, and I know everybody can relate to this, such a hard time with the polyurethane. So like the covering, the last sealer level of it, I always got you can always see the brush strokes, the bubbles and all that stuff. So water-based polyurethane is it's the deal thing of the week, because
life-changing, huh?
I have a very cheap paint sprayer. Got it for like $20 on Black Friday or something like that.
Harbor Freight?
No, it was just Amazon days, maybe. I don't know. But I was able to spray those. I screwed them into my workbench, and I sprayed them like 3 times, and they look really good.
Nice.
I was like, man, because you can thin it down.
Right.
You can clean out your sprayer and all that stuff if it's water-based. The oil-based stuff is just a whole nother mess.
Yeah. I have
that was my greatest.
Polyurethane. It was, I think, at a paint store or something, and they had a beautiful piece of I don't know what kind of wood, and they did this poly, and it just was like absolutely smooth. And they had it in the showroom, which is very silly, and so that's so smooth, and it literally was still like super wet, and I just and it's like, can I run out of this store? But my hand's stuck. They all looked at me like,
Hopefully it was water-based.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Anyone else got something you want to share?
I had a Groner joke. You might be ready for the Groner. I'll play that. I'll tell that. What do they call a Frenchman in sandals?
A Frenchman in sandals.
A Frenchman in sandals.
I don't know.
Philippe.
I get it.
Ouch. Nice.
Yeah. Well, we need to give a shout out to the women.
Absolutely.
Yesterday was Mother's Day. So
It's past that, though, so we don't, they got to wait for 364 more days.
That's the only day we need to do that.
That's right.
That's right.
That book is closed.
Yeah, we don't need to keep dragging it off.
Right?
Now we just got to prepare for Father's Day and celebrate the men.
That's right.
Right.
That one lasts the whole week, though.
A month of
Countdown.
preparation.
Right.
Well, I did. I had a really good weekend. I went down and saw my daughter, and we went over to the mall and had I bought her mom a present and nice little necklace, and she actually ended up showing up, and I haven't seen my wife in quite a while, and it was
good day.
Cool.
It was a fantastic visit. A lot different than what it's been in the past.
Oh, good.
And,
Good.
We've been on that trail for a while, haven't we? So there's some hope there. So
Nice.
it was really cool. It was a really good visit. And so
Good. We'll have to do a video and kind of share your testimony with everyone that's listening.
Yeah, for sure.
we
Know
can
your
do that.
backstory a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll give a shout out to Stark Brothers. Stark Brothers, if you're looking for fruit trees. Yeah.
Tony Stark or
Kinda, yeah. That's what the kids thought when the box came. It was like, you got Iron Man trees. Yeah.
Stark operating.
But I've bought trees from Gurney's in the past online, but the Stark trees are a little bit hardier, bigger trunks and that kind of thing. So if you want to buy some fruit trees, I'd recommend Stark. Yeah.
Just nice fuel
getting
for the elk.
royalties from this?
Right. Yes. Yeah. A nice snack for the elk and my dog.
Are you getting royalties from this, David? No,
Right, yeah.
no royalties.
Oh,
No advertising.
Not yet. Not
I
yet.
would love to, though.
That's a plug. That's a plug. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for this episode, unless anyone was holding out on something that they really needed to share.
Nope.
No, we're all good.
Thanks, guys. Thanks
Yeah,
for
thank you.
tuning
Yeah.
in and spread the word on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. So website is mantheyremember.com, and you can go to mantheyremember.com/podcast, and you can find all the places you can subscribe. And we appreciate you subscribing and sharing. So like the podcast if you don't mind, share it with friends, talk about it, rate it, review it, do all of those things. We really appreciate all those things. Facebook.com/mantheyremember, and linked right there on the Facebook page is our group that we're trying to create, where we can build a community of men, encouraging men to be men. We're trying to change the story of manhood in our culture. And right now, if you play the story out, it doesn't have a good ending. If we continue on the trajectory that we're going on right now as a society, with the way our men are and the lack of men of virtue, men without chest, as we said several episodes ago, it's a very dangerous future. But we're trying to change. We're in the middle of the story. We're going to change the story. This is the twist, right? And there's a lot of other podcasts, but we're going to take credit for the twist in the story, and rewriting the story of manhood.
Not like the submarine story.
Not the submarine story. It's got a better ending than that one. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Giving hope.
yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in for this episode. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.